Quincy Jones described Clifford Brown as one of the most important musicians of all time. I believe that 100 years from now, when people look back at the 20th century, they will look at Miles Davis, Charlie Parker, Clifford Brown, Ella Fitzgerald, and Dizzy Gillespie as our Mozarts, our Chopins, our Bachs, and Beethovens, Jones told New Orleans Public Radio in 2013. His life cut short by a car accident at the age of 25. Clifford Brown made a lasting impression on the jazz world, and his influence is still evident to this day. Although Brown is not considered a household name, in jazz circles he is revered as the greatest trumpet player of his era and mourned for the loss of the inevitable wonders he would have gone on to create. Clifford Brown was born in Wilmington, Delaware, October 30th, 1930. Around age 10, Brown started playing trumpet at school after becoming fascinated with the shiny trumpet his father owned. At age 13, his father bought him a trumpet and provided him with private lessons. By his college years, he was performing with a 14-piece Maryland State Band. After a gig in 1950, the band was involved in a serious road accident, and Brown, who suffered life-threatening injuries, was hospitalized for many months. Initially in a full body cast and with a shoulder injury that would affect him for the rest of his life, Brown was unable to play trumpet. He was determined to recuperate, and with the encouragement of Dizzy Gillespie, who visited him in the hospital, Brown fought through his discomfort, abandoned his studies, and set out to become a professional musician. In May of 1952, Brown had the opportunity to sit in with Charlie Parker for a week. "Bird helped my morale a great deal," Brown remembered. "One night he took me aside and said, 'I don't believe it. I hear what you're playing, but I don't believe it.'" Impressed by Brown's playing, Parker later told drummer Art Blakey, "You won't need a trumpet player after you hear Clifford Brown." In Philadelphia, Brown joined Chris Powell and the Blue Flames, a regional rhythm and blues group, in the early part of 1952. He made his first recordings with this group on March 21st, 1952, for OK Records. They recorded 4 songs, including Ida Red, Blue Boy, Darn That Dream, and I Come From Jamaica. Brown crossed paths with many jazz-oriented bebop groups while touring with Powell. "I first met Clifford Brown in the spring of 1953 in Philly," said trumpeter Art Farmer. "He was working with Chris Powell, and I was with Lionel Hampton. When Miles was on the coast in 1951 or 1952, he had told me that I would like Brown because he was so warm, so I expected him to be good. Well, he exceeded my expectations." Brown recorded his first jazz record on June 9, 1953, as a sideman with Lou Donaldson for Blue Note. Among the songs recorded, Brown contributed his own composition, Brownie Speaks. Brown soon made several other recordings as a sideman, first with Tad Dameron's 9-piece group, and later with J.J. Johnson, on tunes such as Turnpike. When Brown stood up and took his first solos, recalled critic Ira Gittler, "I nearly fell off my seat in the control room. The power, range, and brilliance together with the warmth and invention was something I hadn't heard since Fats Navarro." Brown became a part of the Lionel Hampton Big Band in July 1953, joining Art Farmer and Quincy Jones in the trumpet section. "I must admit I was more than a bit jealous of his ability to play so well," Farmer confessed. "However, he was such a sweet and warm human being. I was forced to like him, even though he made things very difficult for me as a trumpet player." Nearly everyone who knew Brown agreed on his likability and welcoming personality. Brown's main inspiration was Fats Navarro, who would become another early mentor. Through Navarro, Brown picked up techniques that he would continue to develop in his own way. The richness of his tone, his full sound, his carefully calculated solos and complex harmonies all have their roots in Navarro. But Brown's genius was in making them sound new and unique. Perhaps his greatest recordings were with the group he founded with Max Roach. These are amongst the very best hard bop sessions of all time, and it's a testament to how highly regarded Brown was at that time, that the far more famous Roach was willing to share billing with the rising star. Bridging styles of old and new, the Clifford Brown Max Roach Quintet is considered the quintessential hard bop group, mixing bebop improvisational sensibilities with the forward thinking of a younger generation that grew up playing in rhythm and blues bands. After a month to get themselves together, the quintet first performed in April 1954. The Brown Roach Quintet went into the studio 6 separate times for MRC Records between August 2nd and 14th, 1954, making many memorable recordings. These include Delilah, Parisian Thoroughfare, Jordu, Joy Spring, and Diahoud. At the end of 1954, the Brown Roach Quintet toured extensively, traveling through the cities of New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Cleveland, Chicago, Toronto, and several other locations. Enjoying more publicity and greater success, Brown also made recordings with Sarah Vaughan and under his own name on tracks such as Lullaby of Birdland, Yesterdays, and Willow Weep for Me. On September 30th, 1955, the group appeared at the Beehive in Chicago. During this historical performance, Sonny Rollins replaced the departed Harold Land. Rollins was recovering from his battle with drugs, and Brown's unblemished lifestyle was an inspiration. Clifford was a profound influence on my personal life, Rollins admitted. He showed me that it was possible to live a good, clean life and still be a good jazz musician. Although there is no shortage of stories of jazz legends cut down in their prime, it's often the case that drugs, alcohol, and mental health played a part. Brown had managed to avoid the hard living excesses that had ensnared so many of his contemporaries. He was committed to his instrument, devoted to his wife, and by all accounts as nice a guy as you could hope to meet. Benny Golson, who'd played with Brown, remembered him fondly. He was not a likable guy. He was a lovable guy. I never heard him raise his voice in anger. I never heard him swear or tell a dirty joke. On June 26, 1956, Brown, Richie Powell, and Powell's wife Nancy were driving from Philadelphia to Chicago for the band's next appearance. While on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, Nancy lost control of the car on a wet stretch of road a few miles west of Bedford. The car hit a bridge abutment, jumped the barrier, and rolled down a 75-foot embankment. All 3 passengers were killed instantly. Clifford Brown was 25. Although Brown's time on Earth was short, his lasting impact on jazz history and trumpet playing is indelible. Sadly, we will never know just how good he would have become. According to the biography Little Jazz Giant, Brown's hero Roy Eldridge said, after hearing about the youngster's death, "I just liked the way Clifford blew his horn. As good as he was going to be better." As Sonny Rollins said, "He was just like a shooting star. He's there and he's gone." This is Alexander from One Track Jazz. Thanks for listening.